music in that? When like you went to a Baptist church, is any music involved in the church?
Oh yes, most black musicians come from a religious background or singing in a choir or something like that. I sang in the church choir.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I guess the term soul music comes from that because of the music that comes from your soul. That's what actually, not just black music, because there's so much. I mean, there's only. I look at the term soul music meaning music that touches you inside, touches your soul. That thing that you can't touch and you can't see, but you know it's there. You know, that's what that soul is.
I think, what was it, the guy Jerry Wexler, the famous producer, he claims to actually coin the term rhythm and blues, and he says, thinking back in retrospect, he would call it rhythm and gospel. Yeah. He says, that much of that heritage comes from the church and gospel. Was it a lot different, like on Sunday in church? Did you feel like letting it all out of you, like when you were singing?
Yeah, well, you did. Gospel came from. The whole thing stemmed all the way back from slavery times, when the only way you could express it was in a song or working in the fields or saying how you felt. And I guess blues came out of that, and the gospel music came out one way. One was religious and one went the other way, but it was the same feeling, same expressions.
Let's see, what was I going to say? I just had something in my mind there. Lost it. Your background is more rhythm and blues then. You said you describe yourself as pre-rock and roll.
Yeah, well, rhythm and blues is something that came after rock and roll. That was just the vision of a separation.
Good morning.
Good morning. That was a separation of it. I never understood that separation. In the beginning, it was all rock and roll. You know what I mean? Chuck Berry, the father of rock and roll. Some people would question that, but I don't at all.
Well, I mean, Elvis was the first one to admit it. His roots were black.
Yeah, well, of course they had to be, because that's where it all came from. Yeah. But now it's not called rock and roll. It's called rhythm and blues. You know what I mean? And I think that came out of some marketing thing. The record companies wanted to market this as separate. We create our own prejudices and our own separations. We do this ourselves, and it wasn't music that did it. Someone did it.
I guess it was Jerry Wexler, I think, back in 1955.
Yeah, that guy.
He wrote for Billboard magazine. That's where he started it.
Well, see, that's where it all began, and because in the beginning it was all rock and roll.
You started on this rock and roll then. When did you start sax, actually? You mentioned in the interview there, it was after you got in the accident then?
No, when I was 9 years old, my father bought me a saxophone. He heard this guy, Sil Austin, and he wanted his son to play saxophone. No one in my family played instrumental music. We were just all singers in the choir or something like that. My uncle, who played piano for the church choir, was the only instrumentalist in the family. And I remember one Sunday morning, we used to have devotions in our house, and he was sitting there at the piano playing something, and my grandfather came downstairs and says, "Boy, what are you playing on my piano?" He said, "I don't want to hear that in my house no more." He started to play those little minor chords in there, that weren't exactly gospel, And when I heard this, it made me feel it, hey, there's something going on here, So why is he so upset about what he's playing, And so, as a child, you kind of wonder, somebody said, "You can't have this." You say, "Why?" If they can't explain it, then you really want it, what I mean? So that could have had some influence on and this is about the same time that my father bought the saxophone. Then years go on, and the Ed Sullivan Show comes on TV, and you see Elvis Presley, and you say, "Wow, man, this is happening," And you start to put all these little things together, and you find a way out, a way of expressing yourself. And so, of course, that had a great effect on me.
When did you actually start earning a living from playing the sax?
Well, my first gig was that I actually earned anything was when I was in college. We had a band called the Vibratones, which was a 9-piece band. And it was just a bunch of guys who used to get together and after class in the music hall and just jam. And we used to do all the James Brown stuff, you know.
Is that right?
And some guy heard us and said, "Hey, come play at my club." And so we went down and we played, and he gave us hot dogs and beer. That was our first pay. You know? And from then on, we started making a little money, you know. And then we started making good money, you know, doing it. You know, the band became very popular, and I started to pursue my career.
Oh, this was back in New Jersey?
This was I went to school at University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, Princess Anne, Maryland. This is where this was. You know, this was before I moved to New Jersey. I moved to New Jersey later, much later, maybe I was 28, I guess, 23, 28, something like that. And I was working as a counselor in a boys' home reform school, and I was still playing on the weekends. So you know, I always played my sax. I always would jam with different bands. I remember playing with a country western band. Man, it was just, I mean, it wasn't a band. It was a guitar player and a bass player, no drums. And I walked in and I said, "Can I play with you guys?" Because I love to play so much. And man, we had such a great time. And I used to walk into any kind of bar. There was some music going on. I'd walk in and I'd play, you know. And it was great because I was always searching for that thing that would make my life real. Because I knew there was something out there for me. And when I met Bruce, we looked at each other and said, "This is it," you know, because he had the same feeling. He was searching, he was looking. He had several bands. He moved to the West Coast. He moved back to the East Coast, and when he got his record deal, you know, I had jammed with him. He got a record deal, and he asked me would I play on his album. I said yes, and that's when it started.
When was that? The original meeting? What year?
Oh, that was 13 years ago. About 13 years ago.
It was 72, huh?
Yeah, 71, 72.
So right before Greetings from Ashburn.
Yeah, that was the first album. That was when it all started.
What were the actual circumstances?
Well, I was playing in a band called Norman Selden and the Joyful Noise. It was a white band, and they played the shore area, you know. And back then it was there were no black musicians playing in white clubs down there on Jersey Shore.
Is that right?
Even that late, and yeah, it was very, very rare, I should say. And Norman took the chance, hired me, and it worked out fine. It was great, you know. And I told him, you know, Bruce came in and jammed with us one night, and this was before I knew him. And anyway, I went down to his club where he was playing. This girl, Karen Cassidy, who sang, who was a vocalist in our band. She says, "You got to meet this guy, Bruce. You got to meet him." So I go down there and I jam with him, and then this is when we realized this is what's going to happen. You know, I walked into this club and I was telling the people the other day about the night that the wind. It was real stormy night. Bruce tells the story sometimes on stage about how we met. And the wind was blowing like crazy. And I opened the door, and the wind actually took the door off the club, man, and blew it right down the street. It's like, and here's this guy walks in, you know, with a saxophone, and says, "Oh, can I jam?" He's, "Sure, yeah, you can do anything, you know, take a couple of singers if you want, anything you want." But anyway, it worked out real great, and like I said, the magic started. He came back and jammed with me a couple of times with Norman. And I told Norman I was going to leave the band. I was going to go with Bruce. And he says, "You're crazy, man. That guy ain't going to go nowhere. And that's going to happen. That's weird music he's playing. Nowhere. You're going to starve to death if you stay with me." So anyway, I left, and here we are today.
Yeah, that was quite a risk on your part, because back then he was still doing those, you know, kind of folky type.
But you know, when you know something, when you know something, and you trust your inhibitions, you do it, and I did, and it worked out fine.
But you were making a living from the band before the other band.
Yeah.
That was your only.
No, I was playing on weekends.
Oh,
I was still working as a counselor at the reform school. So I left my job.
Is that right? You actually left that job to start.
Left that job. Left my wife. Left everything. Quit everything, and I was making $15 a week. And I was much happier than I was with all the security and the money I was making before.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How was it at first? I mean, you must